Reddit, which is up here, and also from Project, Growler, as far as Growler. So what does that mean for you? What does it mean for Whitman? What does it mean for anybody in town? Why is the mileage radius on this so important? Up to 3 miles from a hyperscale data center, the infrasound permeates out and has an effect. Does it diminish from the property line to the 3 mile mark? Yes. The diminishment at the 2 mile mark is about 30%. 30%. At 3 miles, you have diminished down to about, it's 30% diminishment. You're still 70% impact. This is still at a 70% impact from infrasound. Projected from what we have, so I don't see. But the fact of the matter is that this infrasound causes this condition. It's documented. Okay? The next one is the heat island. What is the heat island effect? Anybody ever been to downtown Atlanta or downtown concrete jungle anywhere? It's always hotter in the summer. Why? There is nothing to absorb the heat around the water and trees and everything else. It all goes into the concrete and steel, and the concrete and steel has to be released and it radiates it out. It raises the temperature in an urban environment by degrees. Cambridge University, we all know that Cambridge is, this is a small scale operation, did a study that showed, and their study, they used, by the way, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory thermal imagery. I mean, just to be able to say that, it's like, oh my God. So their thermal imagery takes into account for air layer, temperature, and everything else. They were looking at the ground surface increase around the data center. So they got years worth of data. They said, turn it on months before it goes in there. Let's see what the temperature was in that spot. Now roll it. What happens the second it turned on? Where is it now? Consistently, a hyperscale data center will produce anywhere at a minimum of 3.2 degrees raised temperature, up to, in some instances, it was reported 16.4 degrees. Where will you fall? Somewhere in the middle, on the bottom end of the scale. Can you afford to have a 3 degree or a 2 degree average temperature increase? Will your electric bill survive it? Will your water bill survive it when you have to water more? Will our water handle the added evaporation? What happens to the heat that forces the weather, as it does now for these solar fields around us, which already go around us? You watch the weather pattern, how it goes around us all the time. It's because of the heat islands that are created during the summer from the solar panels. Now you're going to have the potential for 5 hyperscale data centers. Where these rings of heat come into touch with one another, the effect is cumulative. It's a law of thermodynamics, so you can't change that. It's scientific. So if one raises the heat by 3 degrees, the other by 2 degrees, you're going to have a 5 degree temperature increase in that ring where the 2 rings touch. Look apart, you got 3 to 4 of them coming together in the same place. We're thinking on the low end over here, we could have a 9 to 12 degree temperature increase alone in Booker Park from the effects of those same. So whose interest is at heart here? That's what we've been asking. The people have been talking about this for a very, very long time. I say the people. Ms. Linda, where are you at? Ms. Linda and I spoke with anyway. Linda was on this about the same time I found out about it. I posted something that she did, and we've talked. We've been a team since. We've moved around this room and meet other people today who've been involved in this. So we've been looking for creative ways to get ourselves out of this situation. We have asked from the beginning that we be given a seat at the table to discuss our concerns. Your mayor has told me I was barking up the wrong tree, and he has no interest in this, that it did not fit his vision. Those are his exact words. Okay? Your council is not listening to us. I have produced a 20-page report that gives the link after link after link after link for them to look at. Not one of them responded. They don't care. Why? Because they see the benefit in data centers. And what is the benefit in a hyperscale data center? It creates tax revenue, tax dollars. They are more concerned, it appears, allegedly, with the institution of government and not the people. So what we did is we began doing our research, and we have found out a lot of interesting things. And one of the ways we've been trying to do this is to work through the legal system, to work through the process, to have our voices heard. The Greater Indiantown Community Alliance actually brought a civil injunction against them because they have created an enclave around people like this Carol McAllister here. He has a heritage family that's been here for over 100 years, and heritage land that's been here for over 100 years. It's been encircled now by the village of Indiantown with nothing but industrial land around it. We filed an injunction to the judge and asked him to stop it. We come to find out that the judge said no, we had to pay all of the legal bills for FDNL and for the village. We don't have those deep pockets, so we had to force the lawsuit. That's the only reason that that injunction was pulled. It does not mean that there was not a reason for having that injunction. Anyway, I'm going to let Ms. Lynn say a few words, and then I want to tell you, we have some candidates in the race. The reason that they're here, they're probably people showing up and they're all out campaigning, is because we sent out a survey to them. And we said, if you are elected or re-elected, will you do A, B, and C? We sent it out to the county commission. We sent them out to the school board. Jack is being here. I know we will be here in a few minutes. Paul. And we also sent them out to the Village of Indiantown Council. We're going to read those to you here in a few minutes. And then we're going to open this up to Q&A to see if I've missed something or have not made something clear that you might need clarification. So stick with me. I don't want to keep you guys here all day. Oh, there's Coretta. Showed up. Welcome. All right, so Lindy, would you like to say anything?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Linda Biscuit. I've lived in Indiana for 4 years. I moved to Huntsville. I went to my first council meeting in February. Regarding the FDNL legislation and voting out the law. FDNL is in the district of selling electricity. They have as industrial park, sell land developers to find agricultural land, and then they're guaranteed a zoning change coming because we don't have an agricultural land designation. And they're just simply doing it if something isn't done. And the council we have now is just happening. We've asked them, we have people in this room that have done mega FOIA requests, research, and we can see the writing on the wall. And I hope all of you do too. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate you. Also, I'm going to have a good word up here in a little while. If anybody wants to get involved with us, please sign up. We'll be happy to have you help us. We'll be any involvement. This is big. This is going to change Newtown in a big way. And it's not just the village, but all around us. I'm also going to have questions up here. If you're afraid to ask a question or we can't answer a question, write it down. We'll try to get an answer for you. But thank you all for coming.
All right. One last thing, and then we'll give the microphone to Melissa Haig. Melissa Haig was not a part of the Greater Community Alliance, not associated with TalkAboutMark.com yet. Hopefully they have some on us over here. We're talking about that. We'll see what happens after the election when things calm down so we can make a smooth transition a little bit. But I would like Melissa to talk to you a little bit about some of the research that she's done and why we win. Now, Silver Fox, if you think back, Silver Fox was the first one proposed here in town. We got on that cliff. We showed who was behind it, where it was coming, and they said, oh, too much public interest. We're pulling back, all right? What did they do? They went and they said, fine, we're already zoned industrial, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get that property separated into two different properties. And when we do, we're going to put a data center on each one of them because the village regulations already say that they can do that. That's what's called a right of use type of development. They don't have to go back in front of the council to get their permission. They don't have to go back to the PZAB. They only have to go to one person that's in charge, the head of the Development Review Committee, which is a consultant. So let me give the microphone to Melissa and let her clear that up a little bit.
Hello everyone, my name is Melissa Haig. I've only been a resident of Indiantown since April 16. And I get a lot of grief online with my eyes on the Indiantown page and the documents and information I put out there as being a resident. Well, welcome to Growth. This is what it looks like. You're going to get me times 10. You're going to get me every time there's a new development, a housing development. Because new residents come in with different degrees, different corporate educations, different connections, different networks. This is what growth looks like. You're going to be questioned. Welcome to the village council and staff. And it's not because we have something totally against them as human beings. They're doing a job. It's unforgiving. And it's not easy for those there now or those who get elected. But the point is, we're still going to keep our eyes on it. So no matter who's sitting in the chairs in that dais, I'm going to investigate when you get it wrong so that the people get that information. And why do I do that? Because it matters. Not just the property we own, but to each and every one of you. Those who are the OGs of Indiantown who watched the changes as they took place. Those concerned about our ailing water system and how that new system will be developed. Their environment, their children that go to school, that infrasound, okay? And the documents that sit behind the decisions. Now, why do I look at them? Because the documents don't lie. Somebody can build any type of excuse or narrative they want around those documents. I don't care. I'm going to give you documents that are always done. If you don't like that narrative of the document, well, go argue with courts. Go argue with Mark County, because that's where they're filed. Going through Public Service Commission records takes an enormous amount of effort and time because things are hidden. Those FPL connections that most of you probably won't know about. And it's really easy to say there's nothing there, and these centers don't exist, and they're not ramping up for them until you start pulling that testimony. And that takes a long time to find because it's buried. And some of the documents that list the exact names of the individuals who would be tenants or to run a data center, those are hidden from the public under confidentiality agreements. That's allowed by your Public Service Commission. So the people in the meetings and in the testimony in the hearings will say, yes, I see that. And that's on Excel spreadsheet, XYZ, but it's not the record. Why is that? who's gonna be where. We all have to fill out building permits. If we're going to put a water softening system in, we're gonna add construction to our homes. We have to have an inspection, we have to get a permit, we have to disclose. So why is it certain individuals that are in development aren't doing the same thing for us? Rules for thee, but not for me. And that's why we keep on watching everything. Again, don't care if people don't like what I post. It's not about feelings. Facts don't care about feelings. I will put the record there. You decide what you get. And part of that record is figuring out how the development board works. Because I'm in Civilly, which is the public-facing title system in the village hall. Now, for quite some time, it was disheveled anyway. It's hard to find clear information. Sometimes it's listed by a project number. Sometimes it's listed by a plat number. Sometimes it's listed by a name. Sometimes it's listed by a record. Sometimes none of that is there. You gotta guess. You gotta go to the Google and see. That's an everyday thing because that documentation changes. And as you scroll down, it gives you a little chart that shows you whether it's 30% done, 33% done, 80% done. Well, I have to check that to see how many percentages we've gone past because why? The village is not going to just give you that information. You have to put another information request in for that update. And the problem is, some of the information isn't there. And just recently, after last Friday, all of a sudden the property addresses disappeared. All of a sudden the plats disappeared. So unless you know you're looking for a PRE file or you're looking for an ANX file or know the numbers, it makes it hard for the public. The public should not have that difficulty. And a lot of questions are given to council. A lot of the investigation websites that we put up to post the documents could be totally avoided with a public-facing portal that works, that is transparent for the people. It's been paid for. Your tax dollars have paid for this solar system. I don't care that the staff have not been trained. They should have been. Why haven't they been? We have a village manager. Get it sorted. That's your job. I've been made aware that council members don't have a login. And some of them say they didn't know it exists. They are legally allowed to look at the information because it's considered public domain. And they know more. Because it says on there, a lot of them, data center, proposed data center. Or it says splitting a plat. Well, that's a common way of getting around having to have HUD for individual data centers. And you dig in, you get the full document. Well, guess what? Your council can see it, and they can have a conversation with your developer and your village manager, one-to-one, and say, data centers out there? What's going on? Are there any? Is there anything I need to look at and study for myself? Formulate some questions. That all is legal under sunshine law. You gotta ask yourself why they're telling you they know nothing with all the evidence, including media interviews, shows that they did. See, if you start believing lies, because it's said long enough and that many times, in that many different ways, in that many different narratives, that they want you to start believing. Facts don't care about narrative. They simply are. Don't take my narrative. Don't take anybody's narrative. Read the documents. Take the time to be involved. That's civic participation. If you don't do it right now and start getting used to that, other people who are representing you will make those decisions for you. And they won't ask you how you feel. Their vision may not be yours. Make your voice.
This map I brought up here this is a village tool. This is their own map that they put up. And what you're seeing in green up there are PUDs. These are planned unit developments. They're allowed to do a whole bunch of different, there's a list of things that can be done. So when they approve that big green one down there, that's the 5,700 acres from that PL. That's where it's located, okay? And that is a PUD, which basically means there is no more council action on this to vote for anything. The council said, you can have that PUD, just come back to staff and go down our menu of the things that you want, and they'll make sure it's built right. Have a nice day, look forward to your tax revenue. The red one, that is Project Beskar. Project Beskar started out as a 600-acre annexation. I will stress this, voluntary annexation. They asked to be brought in. It started at 600 acres, and as soon as the FPL went through, FPL sold Beskar another 700 plus, 800 plus acres to go with it to increase the size of the annexation to almost 1,300 acres. But they already have plans in their proposal that they have put in through the village of Indiantown when they're annexed in to have a data center. It's not too that land right there is zoned agricultural. It parallels Fox Ground Road. There are homes that are less than an eighth of a mile away from where a potential data center would be built. The village of Indiantown legally, because they set their bar so low, does not have to bring into consideration their neighbors that are in unincorporated areas, like myself and others that are just feet away from where they're proposing to put these things. Evidently, our human lives will matter. The green stick pin I showed you before was Indiantown Middle School. It sits closer than anybody else to the danger zone of the hyperscale data center. It's within 1.8 miles of the nearest school. And they're talking about combining both schools into one. So every kid in here is going to sit 1.8 miles for hours a day through the school year next to a hyperscale data center that's still being looked at scientifically because it's a new creation that our planet has only had since 1923. Yeah, 2000, I'm sorry. What did I say, 19? Woo, man. I'm traveling. I'm sorry. I was somewhere else this morning. I'm here now. I'm still looking for Sarah Connors. If anybody sees Sarah Connors, let me know, will you? Seriously, though, if you look at all of the green up there, that green on the right-hand side, that's Garcia. They just got doubled to another 100,000 square feet of commercial retail. Tell me what they're going to do with 200,000 square feet of commercial retail. What is being planned for us? If there are 200,000 feet of commercial retail, you have to have people to shop at 200,000 square feet of commercial retail at a $35 to $40 a square foot monthly rent. Help me do the math on this, guys. What is coming? So what we're trying to do is show you the facts as to what we have. See the blue one? See that blue one between the green and the red one up there in the left-hand corner? That is what is called a by rights development. That is project Silver Fox, the one up there on the left, in blue. So they're asking for a plat change because they say, hey, we're already industrial. Your rules say we can put a data center in, so we're going to cut that in two, and we're going to put 2 data centers in, and we're not even going to come back to the council with the people. So how do we stop this? How do we? Look, I'm going to be very clear with you. We have put multiple offers in front of them to help put mitigation factors in place because there are ways this can be mitigated. No one wants to listen. No one listens to us. Every time we speak, it's always Eric said it, so how do we stop it? We're down to the last one. This is really simple. You either keep the same council members you have in and let things go. Mouth shut out there, because I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear how you're listening to a data center at night and can't sleep. Okay? You vote for these guys. You have 4 candidates right now that are running against these seats. These people, you're going to find out in a minute which of your village and town candidates and your city council people have said that they will stop the data centers. There is a way to do it. There are 23 other municipalities and counties in the state of Florida that have either put a direct moratorium, which is harder to support and defend the small businesses. You're going to support a moratorium legally against FDL. There are other smaller communities that have put together what's called a pause. Now, if it's our health, our safety, think about the 6,000 plus construction workers per hyperscale data site that will be in Indiantown on a day in, day out basis. Your safety, your traffic. 4 of them, 5 of them, 3 of them, 2 of them. Multiply that by the number of traffic on this road, our roads, the building, and the welfare. The welfare comes into play because they're going to get some tax dollars, but they're also going to have to pay out the IRS, a bunch of other stuff. The real residual value, it's not the bang for the buck. The bang for the buck is this light industrial stuff that's out here. Did you know all of the light industrial jobs and businesses that are sitting just west of here? There's tons, there's millions of dollars of revenue coming. Keep it coming. go guard it. All right, so how do we stop this? We're looking for a pause. We want to put a pause in place for this reason: protect the health, safety, and welfare of the people in Indiantown, for the purpose of looking at the cumulative impacts. The council, your government, the people that are here to represent you, need to have a cumulative impact study. What will happen to our roads if 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of these are built at the same time? Give me a traffic load study. And it'll be congestion. When you shut down 609 in Warfield because you've got a semi coming through with an extra wide load of a pole or a wall or something that has to be cleared, how many times a day? So give me a load study. Give me a load study on the water. If your water plant goes below 70% capacity, the state can automatically come in and take it over. They can only put out 70% of what their maximum potential generation is. So if they're generating, they're saying 9 million is the potential, they're only going to have 6 million. So let's look. We already have almost 6 million square feet of development that's gone into place, right? They've approved it. Homes, townhomes, businesses. They just said, you can't build it until our water plant gets there. You can't supply you water. You know what's going to happen when that thing goes online and 6 million square feet of developers start building homes and things here in town? And then you put 5 large-scale data centers. Who has done a cumulative water analysis? Nobody. Okay. Electric analysis, electric load. Can FDNL do it? Yeah, probably. Their plant's right there. They can supply the data center. But what happens to us? Why is our infrastructure not yet fixed? And they're getting brand new infrastructure. So how do you do it? You go to your council and you say, hey, will you support a pause so we can take a look at, seriously take a look at these things? What are the scientific risks? What are the logistical risks? And if we're going to put a data center here at hyperscale proportion, let's make sure we do it in the interest of the people. Is there anything wrong with that question? I don't think so. Okay, we're not saying no one can have one. If you want it, though, there has to be guardrails. That's Jay Collins, city governor for the state of Florida, said the same thing at our last town hall. He's running for governor. So how do we solve this? Vote. We vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I will tell you who I'm not voting for. And we're going to go down the list here of all of the elected and the candidates, and you're going to get their responses. We sent them out to them. Some of them didn't even bother to reply, others did reply. So that being said, I'd like to turn it over to Penny with the Greater Indiantown Community Alliance. She is their treasurer, and she's going to begin by introducing some of the responses from the people. Thank you, Penny.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out. We're going to start with the Martin County Commissioner's responses. So, Lindsay's going to tell you all that.
Alright, hi, I'm Lindy Knapp. I am a Virginia transplant from the Northern Virginia area. I am quite familiar with Loudoun County, born and raised, 45 years up there. I watched it go from beautiful multi-million-dollar horse farms to having these data centers pop up, what they call Data Center Alley. I also have two special needs children. One is nonverbal autistic with sensory processing issues, and the other one is a higher functioning autism. Both of them are severely impacted by this infrasound that Eric was talking about. My younger daughter, she is a little more extreme, I guess, on her reactions to where when she hears it, and it's noise that I don't hear. She feels it before I do. The dogs actually will alert to it. Each child had to have their own service dog to be able to alert me to when they were going to have issues. Autism is on the rise like nobody's business. As fast as these data centers are popping up, so is autism. 1 in 30 children now I made the mistake of putting solar panels right on top of my house, not realizing the damage that the infrasound was doing to my own daughter, because I didn't do the research, I didn't know. And when she goes into an issue like what we call a meltdown, she will start chinning herself, she will start hitting herself in the head, and at extreme levels, she will bang her head into the wall to where she has caused a hole right into the drywall. And so I'm speaking on behalf personally from a personal level. I am standing up for my children. I'm standing up for everybody else's children, the grandchildren. If these data centers go up this close in this close proximity to the children, we're going to have a far worse increase with behaviors, with mental incapacities for these children that are supposed to be our future. I mean, these are the future leaders of Indiantown, the future leaders of Florida, the future leaders of hopefully the United States, and we're going to be basically poisoning their brains with the frequencies. We are going to be poisoning their brains with the water that we run off. And coming from Loudoun County, there's one particular data center that is set off in the middle of nowhere. People come to see it as this is exactly how we want all of our data centers to be. They're not showing off the other data centers in Loudoun County. It's the ones that are right up in the neighborhoods where the turbines are going constantly, and it sounds like, I don't know if you guys have heard of cicada invasion. Every 17 years the cicadas come out. Think of that 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that low hum, that constant hum, and residents can't even open their windows in the springtime because, even better, this is Florida. Think about after a hurricane, you hear all of the generators. And when you hear those generators running, now think of those generators, eight large generators running just for one building, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's horrible. So on top of it, a couple of days ago, Loudoun County is being the data center capital of the world. They're the ones that everybody wants to emulate, modulate their data centers with. Just a couple of days ago, they just found out, oh no, we're running out of power. Now they have to put up big, giant towers in everybody's neighborhoods, and the counties and the cities have no way to fight it. The state is saying, this just came out on the news up in Virginia about 2 days ago, I believe. It says here, and I'm reading this right off of NBC4 Washington, Loudoun County became the center of the data center economy, and the millions in tax revenue that flowed out of those giant buildings, well, it made this place the envy of communities across our area and some around the country. We do not have the right to say no to power. How would you feel if I told you that the electric company was coming to your house tonight to take part of your property to build a massive power pole in your backyard? But everyone needs service, so that's what they're currently fighting as of just a couple of days ago. Now the power company is coming in and saying, everybody has a right to power. We have to put one of those giant, massive towers in your backyard. Sorry about your luck. And We all know what those giant towers do. It's been years of research that those giant towers overhead that are buzzing and humming are cancer causing. But on that note, I had to get all of that in. Just as a resident, I'm also going up to Virginia, and I'm going to take some water samples from here in Indiantown because my niece is does samples for Virginia. She's one of the ones that goes out, collects samples, and tests the runoff. So just so you know, in a couple of weeks, I'm going up to Virginia to go visit my daughters, and I'm taking some Indiantown samples with me, and going to get an independent study from my niece and him to see just what is in our water. But with that said, as far as the candidates, the questions that we sent out, the candidate questionnaire was on the temporary pause on large data center and industrial approvals. The questions we sent, we are writing as residents and local advocates tracking the rapid advance of large-scale data center and industrial projects in and around the village of Indiantown. Several major proposals and entitlements are moving forward in parallel, often with limited public process and no cumulative review of water, power, traffic, noise, and environmental impacts. We are asking every candidate for Village Council and Martin County Commission the same 3 questions. Your responses will be published so voters can see where each candidate stands. Please reply to this email with your answers by the close of business, August 7th, 2026. So they've had plenty of time. We've even been in something extra, late. That's the word I was looking for. We've accepted late entries because we want to know. We want to make sure everybody is safe. The first question, this is from John Dial. Question 1, will you support a temporary moratorium or pause on new data center and large-scale industrial site plan approvals in the western Indiantown Warfield corridor while the village and county complete a cumulative infrastructure and environmental impact study? His answer was yes, but I do not believe the Martin County Commission has any power in the village of Indiantown policies, but I would support a pause if within the commission power. He's running for commissioner? Okay, so I should have prefaced with that, what he's running for. Question 2, during any such temporary pause, will you support updating the land development regulations, we've all heard them as LDRs, and to add clear standards addressing data center and heavy industrial impacts, including water use, noise, heat, buffering, and lighting, in keeping with SB 484? The answer was yes. There needs to be clear guardrails to ensure no harm or long-term financial impacts and burdens on the taxpayers in the event technology renders the data centers no longer viable. I would be in favor of a bond to pay for complete removal and clean up in the event this happens. And question 3, will you commit to requiring a cumulative impact analysis, water, power, traffic, environment, before supporting any additional large industrial or data center approvals in the corridor? And John Giles' answer was yes, there needs to be a full vetting of any unexpected or intended consequences that may arise from a center. For my other comment, see if I can talk today. Get the words out. For the other questionnaire, this was from Christopher Collins, also
Christopher Doc Collins. Doc Collins kept it short and sweet. He said his answer was yes, down the line for me. Hyperscale AI data centers are inconsistent with the Martin County difference. So he didn't have to get into any, long worded, said it flat out right there. Doc Collins said, absolutely yes, down the line, he would support a pause moratorium, and said hyperscale AI data centers are inconsistent with the Martin County difference.
Thank you. We've got more. We're going to post these on talkaboutmartin.com. We didn't post the results of now because we wanted you took the time to be here. You deserve to know first. So, who's next? Do we have more commission people? County commissioners.
Thank you. I'm just adding on in case anyone wants to get further information and studies that are out there on the adverse effects of that infrasound and noise in regards to children in schools. A lot of these studies were done on children who did not have additional learning needs. The other set were based on children who had additional learning needs, from auditory processing to autism and on the spectrum. Now, what it shows on these reports, these come from the National Institute of Health, the WHO. These come from the Journal of Medicine. These are independent studies that have been done over a period of time to see, and you already know because OSHA's already published this too, environment that is learning how that sound disaffects young people in learning. And they were looking at adolescents from 7 to 14 in some of the studies, and some they went earlier than that. And they found out that exposure to those high levels of infrasound not only damages and disrupts their auditory signal processing, it also indirectly affects their cognitive function to impair sensory input. Why is that? Because their frontal lobe is not developed yet. And we're exposing the children to it. So whether we might be around a cumulative effect industry or data center, our children are being asked to learn in an environment with those cumulative effects not being measured, not being given to parents to make informed decisions. And then you're going to wonder why your child's attainment dropped, because the reports show that exactly. Their attainment and their learning dropped significantly with that exposure. So I'm happy to supply anybody with those links. Again, they come from nationally recognized organizations and medical professionals, and they've been done over a period of years, even looking at their sleep cycles.
Thanks, Melissa. Now we're going to have Sally read to you the answers from the school board candidates in Martin County.
That's it for the county commission candidates that replied to us, 2 of them. All right, got all the candidates. Also, none of the incumbents replied. None of them.
Did Susan O'Rourke reply?
No, she didn't. I'm sorry, say that again. Sorry? Nope. No, Susan O'Rourke did not reply.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sally Kaminsky with Coca, Greater Indian Town, and mine's the Greater with Linda and Aaron and other people that don't live right here in the village. That's why it's the Greater. We want everybody to be able to get together. So that you being a Jersey girl, I was the one who was saying about Aaron. Well, now she's really into this. I don't know her personally. All right, this Sherry, is that how you say her name? Sherry White. Now, if you want me to read the questions, that again I can, but it's weird. I don't know. I don't. Do you believe the school board should formally evaluate and take a public position on the potential long-term health and learning impacts of large data centers or heavy industrial facilities located near schools? Yes. That's it. Yes. Will you support requiring a health and environmental proximity analysis focused on student exposure before any large data center or heavy industrial project Millie Blanco. Everything that I had just read, yes, yes, yes. Sweet enough. Amy Pritchett. Yes, okay, for question one. Yes, I believe the school board should look carefully at any potential long-term impacts on students, including things like noise and water concerns where large facilities are always shared. If the information raises real questions about student well-being, I would support the board discussing it and taking a formal public position. That decision, of course, has to come from the full board working together. Yes, for question two, I support making sure we understand how this project could affect students before they move forward. I would push for the board to request a carefully review any health or environmental information related to student exposure. Creating a formal requirement is something the board would need to decide together, and I won't speak for the entire board, but I will always advocate for putting our students first. And on question three, I will advocate for whatever preventive steps are necessary to keep our kids safe and focused on learning. If the science shows continuous exposure could be harmful, then we should take that seriously and push for appropriate standards. Before temporary pauses until we have better answers. Again, those are decisions the full board would make if the remaining facts and I will always bring a student-centered voice to that conversation. At the end of the day, my priority is the children in our classrooms. I'm happy to keep listening, learning, and working with the community and my colleagues to make sure we get this right. I've had a conversation with our superintendent, and I will continue to follow this closely with Amy Pritchett. Charles Wayne. Chuck Wayne. Okay. Question one. Yes. My position is that AI data centers can only be justified being built on remote, sparsely populated or unpopulated federal lands for the purposes of maintaining self-contained. Did I miss that one? For the purposes of maintaining superiority over potential military adversaries of the U.S. research and development is in progress to develop textbook cases in government oversight and regulation and process. AI data centers should be banned in populated areas for all potential hazards, mitigating actions, scientifically tested, and they don't provide the public requirements from the existing power grid. And on the second question, will you support declining health? Yes. Question three, will you advocate for the protective standards or temporary pause? Yes. And that's Chuck. That's it. One more? Krista Roberts. On question one, yes to the formally evaluate part of this question. After attending the June 20th meeting, I confirmed with the Martin County School District that we do have an agreement with the Village of Indiantown in place where the MCSD is included in the development review process. I was also made aware on July 10, 2026, that Superintendent Dean submitted a formal follow-up letter to Village Manager Krista, reinforcing the MCSD's commitment to maintaining open communication and a strong relationship with the village. Florida School Boards only have a power as a single entity, with no power given to an individual board member. A public position, in quote, be a question for the school board to discuss at a properly advertised meeting. Question 2, the health and environment proximity analysis, not applicable. The duties and powers of the Florida School Board are designated by statute. We do not have the authority to require an applicant to present analysis. As I mentioned at the June 20th meeting, based on my experience on the City of Stewart Local Planning Agency for 15 years, the LDRs, the land development regulations of the village, would be the place to look for what reviews are required. And that document should reflect the will of the people, which typically happens with expected changes or modifications on a 5-year cycle during the EAR, which is your evaluation and appraisal report. That being said, the health and safety of students on our school sites is of utmost concern. And the interlocal agreement allows us to participate in discussions of proposed development that impact our school sites. And question 3, not applicable. Again, the duties and powers of the school board are designed by statute. We will always be looking out for the students and our school sites. This is precisely why there's an interlocal agreement that allows us to participate in the review process. The question of a protective standards or a temporary pause is a more legal question, and I would need to have our attorney give an opinion on that question. Please let me know if you are interested in me asking our attorney for an opinion. And that is Thea Roberts. That is from the school network, of course.
Just for your information, that's the incumbent that I'm voting.
Thank you, Sal. All right, one of the key things that came out of that, I think, was there is a member that does sit from the school board on the development review committee, and we'll have, when all of these come back, there's high rights, and what we talked about, what we said won't go in front of the council. There is a Martin County School Board member that is on that DRC that does not have a vote, but they have a direct input into the process. So that's why we're reaching out to the school board candidates and members to say, hey, look, you got kids in this area, even though you're not in charge of the government, you still have a responsibility to make sure that the welfare of these kids and their safety and health are taken care of. All right, let's get on to the council. We've got people who go play golf here.
All right, I'm going to read the first couple of our local council replies. The first is Anna Farias regarding the question on the temporary moratorium. Yes, with a defined purpose and reasonable timeline, I would support a temporary, legal, appropriate pause on a new data center and large-scale industrial site plan approvals in the western Indiantown Warfield corridor, if that time is used to complete a comprehensive cumulative infrastructure and environmental impact review. This is not about stopping growth, it is about making sure Indiantown understands the long-term costs and impacts before making decisions that may be difficult or impossible to reverse. Updating the land development regulations, she says yes. I support reviewing and updating our land development regulations so they clearly address the impacts associated with data centers and large industrial developments while remaining consistent with Florida law, including applicable requirements under SB 484. Standards should clearly address issues such as water demand, noise, heat, lighting, buffering, and compatibility with neighboring properties, infrastructure capacity, and protection of our community's rural character. Our regulations should be proactive rather than waiting until a major project is already before us to determine what protections are needed.
Regarding cumulative impact analysis, yes. Before I support additional large-scale industrial or data center development in the corridor, I want to understand the cumulative impact, not simply evaluate each project as though it exists by itself. This means looking at water and wastewater capacity, electricity demand, roads and traffic, emergency services, drainage, environmental impacts, nearby agricultural and residential properties, and financial responsibility for necessary infrastructure improvements. I am not anti-development or anti-business. I support responsible economic development that creates opportunities for Indiantown while protecting the residents and businesses already invested here. Once land is developed and infrastructure capacity is committed, some decisions cannot easily be undone. Taking the time to ask the right questions before approving major projects is responsible planning, not opposition to growth. Annie Flowers. Right in the back there. Yeah, she had the guts to show up here too. Now, for Krista Miley. Here are my answers. Yes, question 1, if elected, I will support a temporary, legally defensible pause while we complete a comprehensive cumulative impact study. Before approving additional large-scale industrial development, we should fully understand the combined impacts on our water supply, roads, public services, environment, and quality of life. Responsible planning requires good data, not guesswork. Question 2, yes, our land development regulations should reflect today's development challenges. I support updating our standards to address water demand, noise, lighting, heat, setbacks, buffering, traffic, and other operational impacts so that any future proposals are reviewed under clear, objective standards that protect the residents while providing certainty for the applicants. To number 3, yes, I believe decisions should be based on the cumulative effects of development, not each project in isolation. Before supporting additional large industrial or data center projects, I would expect a thorough analysis of water availability, utility capacity, transportation impacts, environmental effects, and consistency with our comprehensive plan. Residents deserve confidence that growth will not outpace our infrastructure or compromise the community's future. Next, Ms. Janet Hernandez. On the temporary pause. Yes, our regulations are never designed for projects of this magnitude. I fully support a temporary pause while we evaluate what options are available to the village. Review our existing regulations and learn from how other communities are addressing these types of developments. Taking the time to get it right is far better than rushing into decisions that could have long-term consequences for our residents. Janet. For question 2, it's encouraging to see more residents taking the time to learn about the regulations and decisions that directly affect our daily lives. An informed community is a stronger community. My previous appointee to the Planning, Zoning, and Appeals Board was someone who did research, asked the tough questions, and fought for what was in the best interest of our residents. That's exactly the kind of dedication these appointments require. PZAB members play a critical role in shaping the future of our village. That's why it's so important that engaged residents continue to stay involved, pay attention, and participate. Our community is strongest when our residents have a voice. Regarding question 3, yes, I do commit to requiring a cumulative impact analysis. It's important to know exactly how we, the residents, will be impacted. I also committed to making sure that there is a way for the public to know the progress of projects. Okay, next I have Anthony Down. To question 1. Yes, it's imperative that we understand how all new developments, but especially those that are large scale and industrial projects will impact our water, electricity, infrastructure, and health before we can even consider moving forward. I believe newly enacted legislation gives us the legal basis to do so. Question 2. Yes, Senate Bill 484 provides new legislation and legal mechanisms that empower local governments to better regulate data center development. I believe SB 484 acknowledges that some municipalities, like Indiantown, have outdated land development regulations and specifically give us the space to pause such developments for the purpose of studying impacts and updating those regulations. To number 3, yes, it's important to understand development as a cumulative process, where one action builds upon the one before it. Therefore, as we study the impact of hyperscale data center development or other large-scale industrial projects, we must look at how the impacts, when combined, affect our health and resources. And the last one, I'm leaving for Eric.
And the last one was Andrew. Okay, we did get a response from Miss Karen, Miss Karen O, who is one of your council people now. She says, thank you, she only answered with one paragraph. Thank you so much for your questions. I called for a 90 pause on all applications and did not receive a second on my motion. I already instructed staff to start work creating updated LDRs, specifically address large load customers of all types. I will continue to work on new parameters that address water, electricity, noise, and issues. I'd like to change some zoning regulations and only allow heavy industrial and heavy industrial zoning. If we are elected, I will protect our community. That is true. That is true. She did call for a 90-day pause after she voted to bring the annexation in, and after she voted to approve the PUD, and after it already will not come back to her for any review, decision-making, or anything. So that's kind of an easy kind of statement to make. But I do appreciate her for answering. The Great Carmine DePaula, well, let's say the Great Carmine DePaula for last. Ms. Brown, Phyllis Waters Brown, did not reply. We didn't get a reply from her, and we did not get a reply from Bernstein Palmer. They were all given a chance to do this. We sent them to, sorry? No, and Angelina. Yeah, Angelina didn't reply either. I guess wait those. Carmine, great. Actually, I have to back up before we get to the last one. I made a mistake. I evidently left one of the emails out that was sent to us, and that was from Miss Jackie Clark, who is here today. She is a candidate for school board. I apologize. It was my clerical oversight. I did not get the email printed. So Jackie, if you'd like to take just a quick 2 minutes to talk to people here. And, all right. Well, we'll give you the same 3 minutes the school board gives. How's that? Let's just go 3 minutes and tell them, what do you think about the data center?
Yes to everything, because I have a grandson that's on the spectrum. I'm born and raised here, and I definitely do not want to see Warfield get combined with middle school. So imagine if Warfield goes to middle school, okay? All the children are going to be on one side. So what is that saying about the health of the future for the children? But I have a mother that lives here. I mean, just like you are. So what are we thinking about the seniors that lives here? So we need to put the people that live here first. Listen, I'm not for people not growing, but we got to put some measures in place. If we need people who know how to navigate and know how to make negotiations with these developers that are coming in here, what can they do to put something in place for us. You want to come in here, so what you going to do for us that are still living here and for our children and our grandchildren? But it's a yes to everything. Even though I'm running for the school board, but trust me, I'm going to be batting for any town all the way. I'm going to raise here, and I don't want to see
All right, look, I want to say one thing before I move on to Carmine, and we're going to see if you guys have any questions or we didn't cover something you want to know about. An election is an obligation as a citizen. And as an individual that has served our country in the military and as an American citizen, I take that right to vote and being a citizen very seriously, because if you look, there are more of us in this room than there are of them. Okay? And your vote does count when you cumulatively put them together, but you have to stay informed. You have to at least take a minute to listen and look and think for yourself. Don't buy the rhetoric. Okay. Two more things. We have one more speaker. I'm sorry? Yeah, Carmine. Yeah, we're going to get to Carmine. I want you to know that initially I put together a 20-page report when this first came out, and I did a real cumulative study on this, and it was like, oh my God, I wonder if the village council knows this. I took it to them. No one mentioned it, no one said thank you, nobody said anything. I mentioned it to our mayor. When I handed it to him, he told me I was barking up the wrong tree. No, thank you. And threw it to the side. I saw it the other day in Publix because our Publix, we all want Publix, don't we? Buy one, have one. I ran into him in Rhines when we were in Rhines. The email that was used, I'm sorry, it's not Key Foods, isn't it? Things are changing so fast around here. Key Foods now, not Rhines. Okay, so, excuse me. I approached the mayor and said, Mr. Mayor, this is town hall, if you would like to come and find out more about what we're talking about, and we haven't received your email because it keeps bouncing back. The address that he had used on his materials, I guess, wasn't good. Like an address. He says, I don't want it. Take it away. I don't care about any of that. His mind is made up, okay? Your mayor, Carmine Apollo, will tell you that he wants these data centers. They're no louder than a weed eater, and there are no problems with them. He wants, that is his position. That is his vision, okay? And he wants the rest of the council with him. Your vote is your vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but the fact that Angelina and Carmine did not respond to this, and they want your vote again, the fact that the three of them are running on one platform, just look at your firefighters, all three of their pictures are on there. They're all in the same boat. Why? Because they want the money for the institution, for the village. They think that bringing money into the village is good for you. That's the only thing that they're concerned with, is running a good government. They forgot it's a government of the people. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not here to tear him apart, but he did not answer, and he told me twice, not dealing with it. There's nothing you can do about it. I want to give the microphone to one last person here. It's going to take 2 minutes to talk. You can have 3. Okay, I'll do 3. And we're all skilled at 3 minutes of speaking. This young man right here is new to Indian as well, but he's also been helping in the research and a lot of the legwork. So Brandon asked for a couple of minutes. I'm going to let him. Good.
I'm not really affiliated with any organization or anything like that. I'm just a concerned point of view. My background is environmental health and safety. It's also, sorry, my background is environmental health and safety. And I've been an environmental health and safety professional in various capacities for the telecommunications and construction industry. I've also been involved with I have a degree in signal fundamentals as it pertains to telecommunications equipment and stuff like that, which makes sense, share a lot of similarities with who knows. I wanted to talk a little bit about the water really quick. Why is cumulative analysis necessary? Our Floridan aquifer is serving more than just here. It serves Alabama, Georgia, and a couple of other places. There's over 10 million people that get their water from the Floridan aquifer. The Floridan aquifer annually sends out about, or it's used about 3 to 5 billion gallons of water annually. is that important? How is it recharged? It's recharged by rainfall. Does anybody off the hand know what the annual rainfall for Florida is? 49 to 51 inches. That's not billions of gallons, okay? It's not. So let's go average 50 inches. 39 of those inches are either runoff or evaporate. You increase the heat dome here, more of it evaporates. It's not going into the aquifer. Some areas of the aquifer only recharge 1 inch annually. You're taking out 3 to 5 billion gallons and only putting back an inch. It's not an unlimited resource. It's not. Some of the other things with the cumulative analysis that have to be done and talked about are the language that's in these agreements. There's some things in there when you start talking about issues, some of these issues are will make best efforts. Will make best efforts, I'm sorry, doesn't cut it. If you have something done to your home or you buy a car, you have a 5-year maintenance plan or something like that where they're responsible for the maintenance. We don't have any of that. We'll make best efforts. We'll put some gravel over it and call it good. It's still going to go into your water. That, by the way, more than just Indiantown uses. Over 10 million people use it. And by the way, there's also 4.6% for an aquifer where people are individually tapped into well. So that's something else. The protections are not in the documents. They're just not there. And these are documents that the council has said, yep, it's good. It's good to go. It's not. I can promise you it's not. Because when push comes to shove and our back is against the wall and something happens, because it will, it's human construction with human components. Error is always going to be a part of play. That's why environmental health and safety exists, right? They're not going to be held to the standard of correcting what was done or fixing it or cleaning it up. They're just not. They're going to make their best efforts. If you're waiting for a corporation to make best efforts, maybe wait a long time.
Okay, there's a lot more to get into, there's a lot more depth to this, we've been doing a lot of research. If you go to talkaboutparton.com or talkaboutindiantown.com, you will come to the place that you will find a link for data center, and you'll find the last 6 months of reports, investigations, exposés, everything that you want to see has been taken from general public documents, from their own voices, from meetings. We're not making it up, and it's there for you to research. Don't take our word for it. Please go and find out for yourself. This is not a good situation. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, did Commissioner Byrd respond to your question?
No, none of the city commissioners responded. I will tell you, though, that we put their address as the commission address and not a personal address, and I have never sent an email but one to a commission address and never gotten a response, and I have sent it.
What about the school board member there?
The only school board members that everyone was sent, the only ones that we read were the ones that responded. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Everybody here. If the incumbents chose not to show up today, would you still vote for them?
Hang on one second, let's do this. If you are an incumbent or a candidate, please stand up and raise your hand so everybody can see. Let's give them a round of applause.
Somebody that chose not to show up today thinks the truth. Think about it.
In all fairness, too, they didn't show fully supportive.
No, that's fine, but I'm saying, we all know who I'm speaking of. The local ones here.
I'm talking about Johnny Allen, Chris
The ones with the street break address.
They could be out of canvas, they could be doing something else, that's okay, they make your choice not to be here. The school district, there were a couple of incumbents that did answer,
Well, we know the one.
okay, when we're talking about the village, you're right, there was an address issue that took place, solved that real quick because people out that the current mayor's address on his voter's registration card was sent as Indianwood. Well, we knew that he didn't live there. And we knew he had an incorrect voter's registration card. I'm sure it was an administrative oversight on his part. So we helped him recidify that oversight by getting affidavits signed by individuals that live next to him and from Legacy that says he does not live here. That then he had to produce a new address which he put on his card, and we were told is in an RV at the Indiantown Marina. Okay, so that's where he has been living for the past 4 years after moving from St. Lucie County after a bankruptcy, a foreclosure, and a divorce. But that has nothing to do with his ability to govern, I'm sure, other than maybe make the one thing I would like to point out, did any of you receive this in the mail? This is what we've been talking about with the attention to detail, and it's not just him. His attention to detail is it really doesn't matter because I'm doing what I want. His address is on here as 16274 Southwest Forwood Way. That's his return address. He's still using the address as return address, which is fine if you want to use that as a mail drop, but when you look at the bottom, the full address isn't even on it. Which, I'm sorry, is that a big deal? No, it's not a big deal, but when you can't pay attention to detail to your own campaign information, and you are constantly missing administrative details like your address on your voter's registration and several others that we have documented, it shows a pattern of inconsistency and a pattern of not paying attention to detail, which is something I want out of a candidate that's going to be running the municipality that is less than 800 feet from my front yard. So that's why I'm bringing it up. That's all. Sure.
I just want to say that as a neighbor to that address, 3 doors down where I walked my cat, yes, I walked my cat through that neighbor, through that yard, and I can confirm without any question that in the last 2 years that I've lived there, there is nobody living in that spot with that particular description.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes along with this, guys. This is, we're giving you just the basic on this. If you go to talkaboutmark.com, hit the data centers, and there's a basics button. Get the basic information on what are the effects of the water, the electric, the sound, the cumulatives, all of this. There's documentation for there, so you can do your own review and analysis and make your own adult
I run out of tables for
everything
now,
that
I
you've
have
been
one
told
more
today has come from
customers.
public record, from their mouth. If they're an incumbent, from the government. We're not making this up, and we're not trying to attack anybody or tear Indiantown apart. This should be, and I think it shows right here, this is a uniting conversation, okay? And I want to remind you that elections are not about voting for the person you think is cutest, that dresses the best, or is your best friend, or you just love them. That is not what an election is for. You are voting to make a move in a chess game. Elections are about chess games. The people you put in place are going to make decisions for you and I for the next 4 years. So please use your constitutional vote right to vote properly. Any more questions?
We spoke about candidates who are here, who are not here. Just to kind of clear the air with something similar that happened recently. How was everyone notified?
We used either their campaign materials that were used. We used a submission through their Facebook page for their campaign. We used known public email addresses that we have, and/or we used their advertised title office, for instance, the county commission, instead of going to try to find out all of their personal email addresses. Why should we? They're commissioners. We used the ones that are advertised on the county commission website and sent them directly to the commissioner officially. You can do a public records request, probably. We also, through the school board, found it through all of their materials. Yes, sir?
Yeah, and I was mindlessly posturing at the Folkestone early voting station, even told Mrs. Russell myself about this meeting, and I was mindful.
Yeah, it's been communicated to them. I've spoken to them. Look, they can be busy, they can have family affairs. I'm not gonna judge anybody for not being here, but I will say too, I think especially at a local level, you would think that if they were so certain that this was all going to be all right, they would want to be in this room afterwards to tell you where we are wrong. Okay? So, there's no accusations or insinuations. Their actions speak for themselves as they have over the course of the past several months. And every time they say we don't know something, they turn around and say, well, that's not true because it's going to be a closed loop system. Wait, there's no data centers. Oh, it's going to be a closed loop system. How do you know that? How do you know that if we don't know that? So I guess my point is, guys, I'm not against anybody. I'm not for anybody. I'm for Indiantown and our right to exist here the way that we have for a number of years. Is growth good? Growth is good. Growth is healthy. You're made to stay green, man. You get bigger, you turn red, you're going to die in line. We have to have growth. But what's wrong with all the light industrial that we've got going on down the road down here? What is wrong with that? Absolutely nothing. It's bringing jobs, it's bringing money, it's bringing revenue. So ask yourself, why? Why would all five in harmony be so certain that this is the salvation for Indiantown? I don't have an answer, and they're not here to give it to you, so you can make up your own mind. Anything else? Anybody got anything else? All right. I want to personally thank you for coming here today. Like me, love me, hate me, it's okay. But the information you've gotten is all public information, and you can look it up for yourself. So that being said, thank you.